It's just something about the Yuletide season that fills the soul with festive cheer. It's a time of the year that makes you want to curl up around the fire, tell stories, and maybe even partake in some casual arson. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Today we're talking about Christmas goats. Would you believe that there's a town in Sweden where the common reaction to a goat is to say, kill it with fire? Well, pour yourself a mug of something hot and let's unpack that, shall we? Alright, so just about everybody loves the holidays, right? But it's no secret that Christmas kind of takes inspiration from a multitude of different holidays and traditions, snowballing into the one night a year that we all find 24/7 surveillance and home invasions to be rather charming. One holiday that Christmas borrows heavily from is Yule, a Germanic holiday celebrating the winter solstice, or as they thought of it, the rebirth of the sun. Given that in the northern hemisphere, the solstice is the time when the days stop getting shorter and they start getting longer again, signaling the coming return of warmth and bountiful crops. The Norse tradition attributed the return of the light to the rebirth of Balder, the god of light and son of Odin and Frigg, who was killed by Loki at the summer solstice when Loki tricked Balder's blind brother into stabbing Balder with a branch of mistletoe. How festive. Perhaps in reference to Balder's other brother Thor, who rode around in a chariot pulled by goats, the Norse people started making little goats out of the last grains of the harvest, which were said to possess magical powers. Over the centuries, goats became a common motif in their Yule and Christmas celebrations. And that motif entailed everything from young men dressing in goat masks and running through the town pulling pranks and singing, to even some areas considering the goat to be a sort of gift-giving figure, like Santa Claus, going so far as to have some family members dress like the Yule Goat for a sort of demented visit from Santa for the kids. Because nothing makes for a more charming tradition than forcing the kids into a game of who has to go interact with the scary mutant goat man first. Anyways, it's here where we get to the real thing I wanted to talk about today. In 1966, in the Swedish town of Gävle, sorry if I mispronounced that, Swedes, a marketing consultant by the name of Stig Yevlen got this wild idea to erect a huge straw goat in the middle of town square. He brought up his idea with the city and they liked it. They got his goat, if you get what I'm saying. So the Stig passed his idea off to his brother Jorgen, the fire chief, and they got to work on the design. Then, gloriously, on the 1st of December 1966, the Gävle Fire Department unveiled a monstrous 43-foot-tall, 3-ton goat in the middle of Castle Square, a bleating beacon of bright beauty. It was decided that the Gävle Goat would become a new town Christmas tradition from that year forward. The town enjoyed their new goat friend for about a month until something happened that changed the course of history forever. Some chucklehead set the goat on fire. They found the dude and convicted him of vandalism, but with that precedent set, the town just kind of accepted the forced immolation of this goat as an unofficial part of the tradition. In the 55 years that the Gävle Goat has been a thing, it has been damaged or outright destroyed a total of 37 times. More often than not, it goes down. I mean, if an art installation gets screwed up every once in a while, sure, yeah, that's just the odds that you deal with when you put something up in public. This thing has a death rate of 67%. Now keep in mind here, the city of Gävle does not condone the burning of the goat. This was never part of Stig Yevlen's vision. It was just supposed to drum up some tourism so people could come to the town in the holidays and look at a nice goat. But like their patron trickster god himself, the people of Gävle just sort of collectively decided that, while they don't have any real problems with this goat, an ant really has no quarrel with a boot either. Over the years, this tension between the townspeople and the town officials of Gävle over what the real tradition of the goat is has kind of led to an arms race, with the townspeople developing increasingly inventive ways to destroy the goat, while the town officials are just scrambling to find new ways to protect it. Without further ado, as my Yule gift to all of you, I would like to present the complete history of the Gävle Goat and its fate each year since its inception. 1966. The inaugural goat is financed by a group called the Southern Merchants, and built by the Gävle Fire Department, and then burned down on New Year's Eve. 1967. The goat survives without incident. 1968. Even though last year's goat went off without a hitch, a fence is added to keep the townspeople out, or keep the goat in, I'm not sure. Anyway, the goat survived that year. 1969. A chicken wire netting was put on the inside of the goat to provide more structural integrity. It was, however, burned. 1970. Two drunk teenagers speedrun the tradition and torched the goat within 6 hours of it going up. Since the town didn't get that much use out of the first one, some generous donations came in, and a second goat was constructed out of lake reed. 1971. At this point, the Southern Merchants got sick and tired of financing goats just to see them die, and so they took their goat, and went home. Not wanting to see the tradition die, the science club at the local high school, Vasaskolan, created their own miniature goat for the festivities. The poor little thing was smashed to pieces. 1972. This year the goat didn't burn. It collapsed because it was sabotaged during construction. 1973. The goat was somehow stolen. What the thief wanted to do with a large straw goat, I don't know, and I don't think I'll be asking. 1974. Once again, the goat succumbs to the flames. 1975. For unclear reasons, the goat collapsed again, though if I had to hazard a guess, I would probably say a loud noise. 1976. Some hooligans in a hot rod blasted through the goat in their car. 1977. Fire yet again. 1978. The townspeople kicked the goat to pieces like it owed them money. 1979. While the goat was still being built, a preemptive strike rendered the work in progress a pile of ashes before it was even finished. The science club tried again to rebuild the goat, and it was broken to pieces. 1980. The goat was burned on Christmas Eve. 1981. The goat avoided the flames. 1982. The goat did not avoid the flames. 1983. Somebody busted its kneecaps. 1984. Double plus burned. 1985. Some drama emerges among the factions of people who built goats in Gävle. The local high school students decided to go for the Guinness World Record for the largest Yule Goat. They succeeded with a goat that was a full 41 feet high. Creator of the original goat, Stig Yevlin, felt like the high schoolers didn't quite earn that honor because the neck of their goat was excessively long, and that it wasn't, quote, as attractive as the Southern Merchants goat. I really hope that's a translation error. Oh, by the way, the world record goat burnt too. 1986. Egged on by the crosstalk of the previous year, the Southern Merchants came out of retirement to build another goat for the first time in 15 years. Because they clearly knew how to do it better, and oh, what's that? It got burned. From that year on, Gävle would have two goats. One by the Southern Merchants and one by the Natural Science Club of the high school. And they were locked in a bitter rivalry. 1987. The goat was treated with heavy amounts of fireproofing, but it still burned. 1988. English bookies noticed the somewhat random distribution of the years that the goat survived or burned, and started taking bets on the fate of the goat each year. Figures that would be the year the goat survived after a literal 6-year hot streak. 1989. In a particularly fire-hungry year, the goat was once again burned before it was even finished, and when another one was created, it too met a early smoldering end. 1990. Not taking any chances, the public assembled to protect the goat from harm. Their efforts paid off, and the goat survived. 1991. This year, a cheeky entrepreneur slapped an advertisement in front of the goat. People were annoyed, but for some reason, everyone, and even the planners, took for granted that the ad was authorized by somebody, and so they just got away with it. Probably as a divine rebuke from Thor himself, the goat burned. 1992. A bloodthirsty, heinous criminal struck in the dead of night and burned both the Southern Merchants goat and the high schoolers goat, all in one go. The Southern Merchants had the gall to rebuild their goat, and the fiend struck again. This Yuletide terrorist was convicted for all 3 attacks and sent to jail. 1993. Perhaps because of the insanity of the year before, the Swedish Home Guard was brought in to protect the goat. Unsurprisingly, people don't find themselves very interested in burning goats when they're staring down the barrel of the Swedish military. So the goat survived. 1994. The goat survived and followed the Swedish national hockey team to Italy for the World Championship of Hockey, striking fear into every Italian's hearts. 1995. A Norwegian burned down the goat on Christmas morning. 1996. Security is added in the form of webcams, monitoring the goat's condition. This apparently worked, and so the goat survived. 1997. Both goats were attacked, but neither was destroyed, suffering only minor damage from having fireworks shot at them. 1998. In the midst of a major blizzard, the goat mysteriously burned down. 1999. Within hours of being finished, both goats were set ablaze. 2000. Now carrying the tradition into the new millennium, the Southern Merchant's goat was set on fire, and the Science Club's goat was carried away and thrown into a river. 2001. Some Yank from Ohio thought the tradition sounded fun, and so he traveled to Gävle, burned the goat himself. It's unclear whether or not he was aware that the tradition was illegal, but nonetheless he did it. Dude spent 18 days in a Swedish jail and was ordered to pay 100,000 kroner in damages. The court confiscated his cigarette lighter, and in the ultimate mom brand passive aggression, they said, "He's clearly not able to handle it." The American guy said in court that he was no goat burner. He thought he was allowed to do that. Big surprise, the guy came back home to the States without paying his fine. 2002. Someone tried to burn the goat down, but they failed and the goat made it out alive. 2003, burned. 2004, burned. 2005. As if to underline the cartoonish insanity of the tradition, this year's goat was taken out by a pair of masked vigilantes, dressed like Santa and the Gingerbread Man. The duo shot a flaming arrow at the goat and then fled the scene. They were featured in that week's episode of Sweden's Most Wanted. 2006. Who wants to follow that act? That's right, nobody. So the goat survived and was literally stored in a secret location like some sort of holy relic. 2007. The Maine Southern Merchant's goat survived. 2008. Apparently word got out about this awesome tradition, and so 10,000 people showed up for the inauguration of this goat. On Boxing Day, someone tried to burn it down, but then some good Samaritans got in the way and ruined their fun, putting the thing out. The next day it burned down anyway because someone lit it on fire in the middle of the night. 2009. The entire town of Gävle lost their flipping minds. On December 7th, there was an attempt on the life of the Southern Merchant's goat, which was unsuccessful. A few days later, on December 11th, a particularly inept attacker tried to throw the goat in the river. And when they failed to do that, they tried to light it on fire with equally pathetic results. On the 23rd, the Southern Merchant's goat was targeted by cyber terrorism. 2 online webcams were pointed at the goat, and hackers subjected them to a DDoS attack, essentially making them unavailable. And with the cameras offline, they swarmed and torched the goat. 2010. One of the guards standing watch over the goat reported that they were bribed to look the other way so the goat could be stolen via helicopter. Unfortunately, the bribe was not accepted, and so the heist was not carried out. 2011. Early on, the Southern Merchants decided to hose down the goat, hoping that this would freeze into a protective shield of ice. The weather had other plans though, and so the ice melted, and oh, they're already burning the goat. 2012, burned. 2013, burned, even though it was soaked in flame retardant. 2014, 3 separate attempts were made, but the main goat survived. 2015, with singed facial hair, a lighter, and reeking of gasoline, a 26-year-old was caught fleeing the scene of the burning goat and arrested. 2016, the goat was burned the day it went up on its 50th birthday. The goat was replaced by the high school's goat, which was then hit by a car. 2017, security really stepped up. A double fence was erected, along with cameras and guards. Nobody dared. 2018. Security ratcheted up even further, with continued fences, cameras, and guards, but this time they moved a taxi stand closer to the town square so that there would be a lot more foot traffic in the area. It worked again. 2019, double fence, 24-hour CCTV cameras, 2 guards patrolling 24/7, and a K9 unit. This didn't stop people's love of mischief, though. Someone called in to say, "Oh no, the little goat is burning!" And when they arrived at the scene, there was a little mini goat that somebody had burnt, and that was that. 2020. Last year there were things happening in the world, so people didn't really gather for the inauguration of the Goat, which was broadcast online. It was the 4th year in a row that the Goat has survived, and it's the longest living streak yet, 2021. So at the date of my recording this, nothing's happened to the Goat yet. Now, I'm not suggesting that anyone do anything illegal here. My legal team has instructed me to inform you that under no circumstances should you, the people of Gävle, do anything to this poor innocent goat. Think of the kids. But if you couldn't tell, I kind of dig this tradition. Again, not encouraging any foul play. All I'm saying is that if the people of Gävle were to somehow deploy a cloak and dagger operation with spies installed among the ranks of the Goat Guard, instigating some kind of Rogue One-esque backdoor insecurity so that the townspeople could remotely destroy the goat, if that happened, it wouldn't not warm my soul.
So, this is Editing Sean, and wouldn't you know it, just a couple days after I filmed that, they go ahead and burn that dang goat. So, hats off people of Gävle. Remember, you didn't get the idea from me. Although I'm starting to think that anytime I tell the town of Gävle not to do something, the universe gives it to me, so I urge the town of Gävle not to give me $1 million. So, thanks guys.
Thanks everybody. Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, Solstice, Yule, whatever lights your fire at this time of year. If you liked that, please consider liking and subscribing. I'd really like to grow the channel. In 2022, I'm going all out. I would like to have a regular schedule, and by this time next year, I would like to have at least 1,000 subscribers. So if you're not already, please subscribe, tell your friends, share it, like it, do all that cool stuff. You can follow me on Twitter at quest_Seans or Instagram at QuestSeans. If you're not following me, you're missing fire tweets like this. And until I see you next, keep questioning.